Thanks to the resub Sunday driver. Thank you. Alright, we'll watch Atrocity Guide now.
Hi, I'm Bob, the developer of Bob's Game.
It's December of 2008, and 25-year-old independent video game developer Robert Poloni has locked himself inside a dimly lit Viridian-colored room, where he intends to stay for 100 days. On his website, he's calling it a Japanese-style protest, tailored to a specific Japanese company.
Oh,
a live stream documents
he doesn't like
Poloni
Nintendo
sits in
either,
front of
huh?
an old
Good
desktop
man.
PC, working thanklessly on the game which has claimed the last 5 years of his life, and will claim many more. An autobiographical RPG he's eponymously titled Bob's Game.
Welcome to Bob's
Oh, this is
An LED
intense.
strip above him switches from marking the duration of his
Why is there a tarp
protest
on the floor?
to calling out to the one person Poloni believes can prevent his work from being in vain.
My name is Reggie. I'm about kicking ass. I'm about taking names. And we're about making games.
Public humiliation,
Reggie's so fucking
ridicule,
cool.
self-sabotage. Poloni is willing to endure it all if it will only get his game noticed by the company he's idolized since childhood.
Reggie was too good for
Appeals to come to
Nintendo.
his senses are ignored, and his supporters can only watch in astonishment as even the game itself becomes a vehicle for Poloni's frustrations. This is Bob's Game, the Nintendo title that wasn't.
I am Bob, creator of Bob's Game.
This is weird. He had like a tarp in his room that made it look like a place Dexter would kill people. This man really hates Nintendo. Like, I'm doing my part. Like, I haven't bought a Nintendo product in about a year, but fuck. I don't know if I'd lock myself in a
Bob's Game seemed to
room
appear
for
from
100 days
nowhere
and shit
in the
on the
summer
floor.
of 2008, when a video showing footage from an unreleased game was uploaded to YouTube. A dark-haired sprite emerges from his home, walks down the
Resub Ultra Big
sidewalk,
Bubble.
crosses an intersection while a car waits for him to pass, and explores a densely populated town. Buildings open up to detailed interiors. Queues of NPCs line up at cash registers, each appearing to go about their own business.
This
Beyond
RPG
the
Maker?
city square, the sprite follows a tree-lined
Selling it for
path
60
toward
bucks
a
on
school,
Steam?
all to the tune of
For
an
20 minutes of
overworld
work?
theme reminiscent of the MIDI-based soundtracks of the 90s. The trailer ends with Robert Poloni, the game's sole creator, silently introducing himself in the reflection of a Nintendo DS.
This is
The consensus
fucking
was that the
weird.
game seemed charming and lovingly crafted, and only a little more than a week after uploading, the trailer had been viewed over 100,000 times.
Wow,
enough
that's
to
not bad
rank
at
in the
all.
YouTube gaming
Holy
charts.
fuck.
For Poloni, this was confirmation that people actually wanted to play his game.
I can't believe I've never heard of this.
15,000 hours of solitary work he'd spent to create the assets, environments, and 65 tracks of music that made up the soundtrack had been justified.
When I started, I didn't have any programming experience with game
Tier 1
development
Blink
or anything
and
like that at all.
Resub
No
Hinmo
pixel art
and
experience,
Prime
no
Evan.
music tracking experience. The only thing that I did have was I took a class in high school, which was introductory C++, like text input output kind of stuff. I kind of always had this idea for, in my mind, you know, the perfect game, which was kind of something set in modern times, suburban life, not dragons, fantasy, magic, any of that kind
Yeah,
of
that's
thing.
some nerdy
Poloni
shit.
could be found on various
Not like
message
cool
boards
real
answering
life,
questions and participating in
where we
discussions
have
surrounding his
hamburgers
game. People
and
were eager to
birds.
see more. While his trailer was evocative, core gameplay mechanics were difficult to determine, and requests for more comprehensive footage were among the most common reactions. So, Poloni released another, longer trailer, which featured dozens of environments and over 200 unique characters that populated what Poloni described as the largest video game ever created by a single person.
I feel like everyone makes that exact same claim. It's like every game that ever gets made, like that's an indie game, has the
low
same
craftsmanship
tagline.
was a point
Biggest
Poloni
game of all time.
repeatedly emphasized. A 20-hour-long, retail-size, retail-quality adventure title made by a single human being, his description read. News outlets and video
Thanks to
game
Tier 1
journalists
Barrier.
took notice, and
Resub
Bob's
Watts.
Game became one of the more talked-about titles in the indie game scene. In an interview with the Orlando Sentinel, Poloni was adamant that the game was 90% finished, but he was apprehensive about letting anyone see or play it in its entirety for fear of intellectual property theft. He felt it would only be safe in the hands of a corporate publisher. Posters on the Select Button forums urged Poloni to be more
publisher you
practical.
should trust
He'd
is
made a potentially
Nintendo.
good game, but he was in danger
I'd
of
trust
getting in his own
Ubisoft
way.
before them.
Comparisons were drawn to other independent titles created by a single person, such as Yume Nikki and Cave Story, both eventual critical and commercial successes.
パソコン版の元の洞窟物語をやってくれてありがとうございます。
Thanks to the bits, Nova.
高いがあります。
But whereas those games were initially self-published, only to be later released by larger publishers after gaining a cult following, a precedent that many suggested Poloni follow. From early in its development, Poloni made it clear that his game was intended to be played on a Nintendo console. He'd even loaded the game onto a homebrew Nintendo DS cartridge for his videos.
Check it out. World premiere. Right
That's pretty cool.
When is the world premiere?
That is pretty impressive.
I want to
His
get
game
it
looks
published
empty,
on the
though.
DS mainly because of the satisfaction of
Like
having it
post-apocalyptic.
manufactured, Poloni wrote. I know it's not the most profitable medium. I'll make $1 or $2 a copy instead of the $5 or $10 I can make online. There's just something about seeing something I worked on for so long in a shrink-wrapped box, even if it's buried in a bargain bin at Walmart. But there was an obstacle, one which Poloni would go to mystifying lengths in an attempt to overcome. He needed Nintendo's official software development kit.
I have to get the Nintendo development kit, which is it's called the Nitro SDK, and that's something that you can't buy unless you're a licensed developer from Nintendo or if you're
I
working
have
with
one.
a publisher.
You can borrow it.
Right now, I'm still working with the free, open source development tools, and before it can go retail, before it actually, works on a retail cartridge and they can manufacture it and kind
Why
of
the
do,
fuck does
bug
Nintendo do
testing on
this?
it with development hardware. It has
Do
to be converted over to use all the official software. That's pretty much all I have left to do.
He'd submitted an application for the development kit, but Nintendo never responded. I am supposed to receive a decision in 6 to 8 weeks, he wrote. It has been 16 weeks. And in an attempt to get Nintendo's...
Oh, I'm sorry to do a quick pause. Can anybody just submit an application to get the Nintendo development kit? I find that extremely hard to believe. Let's see. There's no fucking way. Okay. Developer.nintendo.com. Your adventure with Nintendo awaits, and so does misery if you work with Nintendo. Wow, it looks like literally anyone can do this. Yeah, I can just register right now. I'll submit Bob's game for him. Hey, what's up? You ever heard of Bob's Adventure? That's actually shocking. Wild. I can't believe Nintendo even has a functioning website. The Switch has the worst online capability of all time. I'm shocked I can even access this page. Thanks to the Prime, Ya Boy Soup, Viper, and Resub. Pretty coy.
attention, Poloni began a campaign that would ultimately overshadow the game itself, alienate him from his supporters, and potentially sabotage his efforts at becoming a licensed developer.
I didn't know Nintendo had a bad rap. Oh, you don't play Smash Bros, I see.
In December of 2008, Robert Poloni began what he called a 100-day Tensai sit-down protest. He lit his room with green lighting and taped a webcam to his ceiling to record himself as he worked, which was live-streamed to his website. "I cannot leave this Viridian room,"
This
he
looks
wrote.
really fucking
"The door
weird.
is locked and barricaded from the outside. I am sleeping behind the camera, and yes, I've got a shower.
What does this
Food
do,
is
though?
delivered once a week by a friend.
What, Nintendo's
When
gonna see this and be
Nintendo
like,
decides
okay,
to
guess we
approve
have
my
to give him a kit
developer
now.
license application,
This guy looks
I will
sane.
leave the room. This is my 100-day protest to Nintendo." Robert supplied his viewers with a mailing address to Nintendo's Senior Director of Project Development, as well as a link to Nintendo's support forum, urging them to get the software development kit into his hands so Bob's game could finally become the DS title it was meant to be. But predictably, all attempts were met with silence. Some video game journalists attempted to use their connections to reach out to Nintendo on Poloni's behalf, but even they couldn't evoke a response. Poloni didn't know the reason for Nintendo's inaction, but he suspected conspiracy. Maybe someone deleting his emails before they could reach the appropriate executive.
Bob's game is too
or
powerful.
Even jealousy that he'd made Bob's game and they hadn't. Can I fly there and negotiate? Poloni wrote. I asked that already. They don't know. The only real tools I have on my side are dedication and determination, so I'm using those. This is a sort of person I challenged myself, and I'm quite serious about it. His livestream was largely uneventful and typically only showed Robert at his desk working on Bob's game, often in costume.
Christ.
But where things got truly strange were his blog posts.
Yeah.
A couple times a week, he'd write
it kind of looks like avoiding the puddles room,
which would also be tracked on the LED strip above his workstation. His posts were angry and full of bravado about his game. Some were oddly threatening, as Poloni seemed to think the more publicity his protest received, the more it would damage Nintendo's reputation. To many watching, the red flags of a hoax or bizarre viral marketing campaign were going up. But Poloni explicitly stated that this wasn't the case, even complaining that people weren't taking him seriously. As the protest continued, Robert's grasp on reality seemed to weaken. He'd write a post calling himself a genius and the greatest—
Let me read this. There is nobody like me. Oh, he's going full Reddit nice guy. This is like one of those texts they send to the girl that turns him down. Christ. I'm far better than Miyamoto, Itoi, Kojima, Carmack, and Wright combined. See, I also think it's just kind of a troll, right? Like, there's no way he'd type that earnestly. Dude made something called Bob's Game, where we still haven't even seen a single other character in the world. It's just him moving around Pokemon houses. I definitely feel like this is it was supposed to be just like a ARG or a troll or something. I stand alone on a mountain no other has even dared to climb. I've swam across the ocean only cruise ships could cross. I have walked through the desert of no return. I have stepped in the footprints of none, a path never taken. I have made history, and history cannot be undone. It's too late, Nintendo. My Reddit karma speaks for itself. That's powerful. That's like the Independence Day speech. Like, this absolutely doesn't sound like someone doing this seriously, right? But we're only 10 minutes into this. It must get very deep.
Developer to ever live, claiming his game must have humiliated Nintendo's team of engineers. I have swam across the ocean only cruise ships could cross. I have walked through the desert of no return. I have made history, and history cannot be undone. He would later apologize to Nintendo in his fans force outburst, only to then write an even more outlandish post, demanding the development kit or else he would take his revenge.
But if you don't give me this, I am gonna fuck you up.
I will crush you into dust and flush away the ashes like any other filth, began to resemble a professional wrestling promo.
True,
he would write
WrestleMania.
Unexpectedly sincere and vulnerable, such as this post about how much Nintendo as a brand has meant to him his entire life. How Bob's game was made only for them, and he couldn't bear to release it any other way, only to negate it by writing that he was going to destroy them simply for his own enjoyment.
He's writing all this stuff saying like, this will work, Reggie will hear me, and it's, it sounds, the writing sounds like it is coming from a crazy person. Like, there's nothing rational about anything that's being typed, and it sounds like the sort of guy that is eventually going to hurt himself or kill someone else to get Reggie's attention, like that kind of crazed stalker John Lennon scenario.
People weren't sure how to interpret what was happening to Robert Poloni, but whatever it was hard to imagine it would result in being granted Nintendo developer status. So what exactly was Poloni thinking?
He's a prime monkey butt.
As desperate as Polony's 100-day protest may have seemed, the conditions weren't drastically different from how he'd been developing Bob's game since its 2003 inception. In order to remove any distractions, Robert would often break his cell phone and seal himself inside his apartment, plastering—
Oh fuck, I didn't get to finish reading that. Why do I hate Nintendo? Well, besides just online being dog shit, like they genuinely treat the people that support them the most like ass. The entire Smash community, like for the entire existence of the community, has been constantly shit on by Nintendo. Actively. They do the best they can to go out of their way to shut the entire community down. They're really rude to the people that really love their games. Splatoon community as well. They over-enforce their IPs to an absurd degree where even a fan project or fan art often gets hit with their cease and desist. There was also that period on the internet where you couldn't upload Nintendo game footage without getting a copyright strike on YouTube. Twitch streamers couldn't stream Mario Kart for a while because they would take down the channels. Like, they're awful. Like, it really is a company that hates the people that likes their games, man. Like, they're bad. They make good games, but they're fucking shit. Thanks to the Prime, Nioto. Damn, man. Even fucked up his cell phone.
Apartment, plastering the walls around his workspace with notes and words of affirmation. To keep myself inside and focused, Polony wrote, I screwed some boards across the door to make it annoying to open, covered it in black plastic, and piled up everything I wasn't using against it. I stayed inside for sometimes over a month or two. The main themes in Bob's game took a while to evolve, with its earliest iteration being tentatively titled Zeldrug, which was meant to be, quote, like Zelda but with guns and drugs like Grand Theft Auto. Slowly, the idea morphed into something more recognizable to its current form, with the graphics being built in a tile editor his childhood friend had programmed for him. Under its second title,
cute.
Button Mash, it would be similar to a role-playing game.
Highly inefficient, but that's adorable.
But with the traditional battle sequences replaced with mini-games, homages to classics like Tetris, Super Mario Bros., and Pong.
I kind of wanted to make something more based around exploring, more based around talking to people. You kind of have to have some action element to it and some kind of skill building element to it. Instead of the battles, I try to do minigame challenges along with quests and along with the talking to people and problem solving.
By the time the idea was fully realized,
well, the game has everything.
It had become Bob's game.
It's the only game you'll ever need.
Nintendo began in early 2008. Polony showed a company representative Bob's game running on a DS, and they'd agreed to meet at the upcoming Game Developers Conference, an event which would become an annual pilgrimage for Robert. But the meeting didn't go as he'd hoped. His game was buggy, and the representative appeared unimpressed.
King of
he
slapping
asked me if I would
knockouts.
be willing to work with my own team within Nintendo, Polony wrote. Without even considering it, I immediately said no. Despite still inviting Robert to apply for developer status, the Nintendo representative told him, sadly, I don't think your game will ever be released. Months later, as Polony was weeks deep into his protest, press outlets and fans assumed that Robert had either gone crazy with frustration or was attempting to drum up publicity for his game. But the game no longer seemed to be the focus. Polony himself and his grievances with Nintendo had replaced it. Attempts to link the protest to the game, such as Polony referring to Reggie Fils-Aimé, the president of Nintendo of America, as you,
he's gonna fucking Gangnam Style on Reggie or on
confusion.
Robert.
And Nintendo's continued silence was confirmation that whatever Polony was attempting simply wasn't working. After only a month, the Bob's Game livestream ended with his workspace completely trashed. It was foolish of me to think Nintendo would hear my pleas.
That was really dumb.
They're just another heartless corporation only interested in the biggest profits.
It took you 100 days of living in your own filth to realize that.
In the debris. Posters from the Select Button forums were concerned. One even called the police, who soon showed up to Polony's house. After rousing Polony from the floor, the police insisted he put a disclaimer on his website stating the suicide was a hoax, to which he complied, even releasing a video of himself staging it all. And the following day's headlines would read, Bob's game creator raided by the police while faking his own death on webcam.
Hi, I'm Bob, the developer of Bob's game. We're in New York City, where we're going to the one and only Nintendo World Store.
Hopefully Reggie's
the
there.
Nintendo DS. This is the developer of Bob's game, sole developer.
Although Poloni had abandoned his
Okay.
Tensei-style protest, he continued tracking the days since it began, foreshadowing something on day 100. For day 50, Poloni, his friends, and a few hired models that he'd found on Craigslist showed up at the Nintendo World Store with handfuls of posters advertising his game, which they taped along the store's exterior and
If I saw one of those posters,
cards
I'd probably
which they
play
seemed
it.
to dump on the floor or attach
Expecting
to
it
other
to be
games,
fucking
and
horrible.
homemade boxed copies of his title that they lined along the shelves.
The poster here? Yeah, do it. Bob's. Oh. Bob's game.
Naturally, he was kicked out.
Alright guys, you gotta go now. You gotta leave now.
Yeah, we're customers.
Okay, you gotta leave now.
We're buying a DS.
It's clear Poloni intended this performance to be seen as part of his self-described protest, but it came off as more of a tantrum. He's exchanged his game development ambitions for fleeting e-celebrity status, wrote video game journalist Griffin McElroy. His website, meanwhile, showed no signs of slowing down. Abducted by aliens, kidnapped by the Yakuza, Bob seemed determined to escalate the absurdity.
What is this? Oh, now he's starting to RP a little bit. Wow, okay. What the fuck? So he's been abducted by the Yakuza and aliens. Man, this guy can't catch a break. The game is too powerful.
Seemed determined to escalate the absurdity until he either tuckered himself out or Nintendo answered his call. And sure enough, after 25 weeks since he'd first submitted Bob's game to their director of project development, Poloni finally managed to elicit a response from Nintendo. Although they had been, in Poloni's opinion, mysteriously stalling his application, perhaps because they were, quote, insanely jealous that they didn't think of it first, on February 5th, Poloni received Nintendo's official decision. We have completed our evaluation
No, wait, I
of
want to
your
read the whole
application.
thing.
Poloni received
Unable to off. Yeah, I'll let her read it.
Nintendo's official decision. We have completed our evaluation of your application and are unable to offer your company authorized developer status at the present time.
Music to my ears, am I right, Bob?
Insult was added to injury when the letter was compared to the letter at the time.
They hit him with an automated message. Damn, ain't that just the worst? Dag nabbit. What in tarnation? Nintendo can't even take a second to play Bob's game? A game where there's no one else but Bob in it? Come on now. Yeah, this looks like just a stock response.
The rejection letter read. Insult was added to injury when the letter was compared to the letters of other developers who'd been rejected by Nintendo, revealing it to be an identical template rejection.
Fucking sounds horrible. I'll pass.
Well. Nintendo. Why? There's no way this was the real Nintendo. It couldn't be. At that moment,
a little bit big.
Understood
Kinda looks like
the
it.
real truth.
Thanks, resub cheese.
Suddenly it was clear that wasn't the real Nintendo. They were imposters.
Uploads to his YouTube channel showcase new footage of Bob's game, which began developing a fictional universe that portrayed Nintendo as an evil corporation hell-bent on stifling lone indie developers, with the game's protagonist as the...
What's up? You have to go out? Oh, you have to go out? Okay. Hold on, I'll be right back. Sorry to blue ball you. Blame Tetra. I'll be back in just 1 second. I'm coming. Hold on 1 second. Okay, now I'm back. Thanks to resub Moon, Cody Keen, and give sub Full Metal. And the resub Squids. Hold on. Okay. Thanks to resub Joe Rock, Limited, Lion, and the Prime J.
The heroic martyr who was here to expose them.
I had no choice. This was fate. For I held
The
the
resub,
only weapon
Call
with the
Me
power
and
to
Rip.
defeat this evil. The greatest game ever made. Even armed with this legendary super game, I knew it wouldn't be easy. I was facing an army
Resub
of
Buffalo
millions
Bob.
of brainwashed children, held captive under the spell of tyranny, cast by the diabolical sorcerer Miyamoto.
No!
Because no
Not
one
that
besides
guy.
Poloni had ever played Bob's game, it was impossible to know if these scenes were a recent addition inspired by his rejection, or something.
This
these
is
scenes were
this is kind of adorable. Even through it all, after faking a suicide on his Nintendo protest live stream, getting rejected by Nintendo, hating Nintendo, he couldn't bring himself to hate Reggie. Reggie was still innocent. He was being controlled by the evil Nintendo overlords. Reggie really was just such a good guy, like a really positive figure.
know if these scenes were a recent addition inspired by his rejection, or something separate altogether, and it seemed Poloni didn't wish for people to discuss it.
Thanks for 5 gift subs, Jay Harv. Thank you, Jay. Thanks to the resub Aloha.
Although it wasn't hard to empathize with Poloni's disappointment, his behavior made it much easier to understand Nintendo's
Thanks to
decision.
Bits Gremlin.
He is as much of a nut job as this thing makes him sound. Yeah, I would go dark on that guy too.
And while
Thank
it
you
was
for 5
obvious
gifts
that
of
much of
stainless
what
steel.
Poloni
Thank you,
posted
Stainless.
during this time was little more than histrionics, the vitriol he had for Reggie and Nintendo seemed genuine.
Tier 1 Jamin.
And it was
Ooh.
determined that what Poloni would be calling Stage 100, or the 100th day of his protest, would fall on the opening day of the 2009 Game Developers Conference, where many high-level Nintendo executives would be present.
The system exists to play games. Games created by Nintendo and games created by you.
That's a goddamn lie.
I am very serious.
None of my games are
Poloni
on there,
wrote on his
Reggie.
website.
Where's
I'll
Bob's
see you
game?
there on day 100, Reggie. A poster on the Select Button forums contacted the security at the Game Developers Conference, warning them
There's
that
a Prime
Robert
Game
Poloni
Bacon,
might, quote, go all
Scar,
Columbine or
and resub
something, or
Stainless
at the
Steel.
very least try and make
I'm not
a
gonna
big
play
scene.
Bob's game.
And when Poloni arrived at the convention, he was apprehended by security and taken into a conference room for questioning. He explained that what he was doing was a, quote, real-time internet soap opera protest. They searched Poloni's bags for weapons and found nothing, but would only allow him to attend the Nintendo keynote presentation with a security escort.
And all of you here in this room have also kindly supported Nintendo as software developers. And
Oh, that's gotta hurt
gameplay.
to hear that.
Thank you. From the bottom of my heart, we appreciate all you have done.
He is
Poloni
rubbing
kept
salt in the
emailing
wound and
Nintendo,
then pissing in it.
alternating between angry and apologetic
It's gotta
letters,
hurt.
all to no response, until he found that they'd eventually blocked his email address. At this point, Robert seemed to realize that whatever he was attempting had failed.
At a point, I am going to expect
Maybe
this
tier
to
one
just turn out to be like a
Bits Barinzin.
guerrilla viral ad campaign for Doritos or something. Just because
that would be the best possible outcome, I think, really.
Because it's seeming like more and more absurd, weirdly staged and absurd, and the things that the guy is saying have become kind of nonsense.
He began dropping the pretense. Although he'd previously denied it, Poloni admitted that his website was in fact a viral campaign. But it wasn't targeted toward potential players.
I see.
The 100-day protest was, in Poloni's words, a second pitch to Nintendo. Bob was hoping to make up for the unsuccessful presentation he'd given at the developers conference a year prior by doing something more memorable, more exciting. In an email to his Nintendo contact, he told them to be on the lookout for, quote, something big, something important and original.
What a great plan to make them afraid of you.
To lure Nintendo's executives
and consider you a psychopath.
real-world extension of the Bob's
Oh,
game
you were just kidding?
fictional
Okay,
universe.
we'll take your game.
One which combined product and process into a single experience, with himself not only as the creator, but a character inside the game.
But to you, Bob had become completely insane. A villainous madman that delusionally believed he was on a crusade for justice, bringing down the evil Nintendo.
Thanks for Prime, Eddie.
Is he serious?
It was a ploy so convoluted it was doomed to fail from the start. But the crux was that the core identity of Bob's game was that it was made by Bob, and Bob alone. And he couldn't pitch the game to Nintendo without also pitching himself as the creative mind behind it. But nothing was coming across as he'd intended, and hadn't since the beginning. Despite this, Robert seemed upset that no one wanted to give him credit for what he'd done. In an email to video game press outlets, Poloni wrote, "It saddens me that Angry Developer Litters is considered more newsworthy than Angry Developer was actually a really cool, elaborate, viral campaign that fooled everyone."
BobsGame.com is a viral advertisement. It always was.
Amidst it all, questions persisted. What about the game?
And what a good advertisement it
Still
was.
intending to release it?
Yeah.
Was there even a game to begin
Fuck
with?
yeah.
This very question was posed by friend and fellow game developer Tim Rogers, who asked
I thought that
Poloni
was
where
Max
the trolling
Mofo.
stopped
Is that
and
not
reality
Max?
began. It stops in that there is actually a game, Poloni said, and it's actually pretty good. And true to his word, in March of 2009, a playable demo for Bob's game was released on Poloni's website.
Whoa! And did we love it, huh?
The demo was only playable on a Nintendo DS emulator and featured about an hour and a half of gameplay. It opens with the game's protagonist having just moved into a new house with his parents and 2 siblings, navigating through mazes of moving boxes to collect items and trigger events before branching out into the world. The minigame challenges were difficult, perhaps too difficult.
You suck, fucking dick. I ain't doing that again.
Mudahar! He played
One more
Bob's
try.
game?
Fuck Bob. Fuck Bob, man. Fuck Bob.
Mudahar is so young! What the fuck is this? He's a baby boy. That's so cute. Did he ever beat Bob's game? Come on now.
Fucking dick. I ain't doing that again. One more try. Fuck Bob. Fuck Bob, man. Fuck Bob. Okay.
Many who streamed themselves playing the demo had to run the emulator at half speed in order to progress.
And especially, you know, we're playing at like half speed here. Again, this would probably be a million times more difficult if it wasn't. I remember this being quite tough.
But the bones of the game were good. It was heavily autobiographical, and the metafictional elements, such as the cutscenes of Poloni in his room developing the game, worked much better as a part of the game's storyline than as a viral advertisement. With something tangible to offer, Poloni began to earn back some of the goodwill he'd lost with his protest. The demo proved that his game was real, even potentially good, and that Poloni was perhaps just a misguided individual who didn't understand
Really mean
how to
mugging
present
there.
himself.
I'm really not the best salesman. I am not a marketer, you know, I don't do a pitch.
A reporter for MTV News even confronted Reggie of Nintendo about their decision to deny Poloni developer status. He did submit to be a licensed developer, Reggie said. "We evaluated the opportunity. We decided at this point in time he did not meet the requirements to be a licensed developer."
Yeah, this was the time when he was
the interviewer
shitting and
pushed for
showering in a room on
specifics,
stream,
Reggie
so...
replied, "We unfortunately cannot get into the details of Bob." Poloni finally decided to submit Bob's game to other publishers such as Sony and Steam, but he was rejected there as well, which Poloni attributed to his notoriety. At this point, Poloni could have released the game himself, like many had been suggesting for years. He'd done the hard work of creating the game and the near impossible task of marketing it himself, albeit at the expense of his own reputation. People were waiting for his game, and he needed only to give it to them.
Maybe.
But Poloni's grievances with Nintendo were clearly unresolved.
Whatever you want to do.
He'd long been calling Bob's game a killer app, a term used to describe software so good that it compels consumers to buy the hardware it's exclusive to. And if released on something other than the DS, Poloni was sure Nintendo sales would suffer as a result. If Bob's game is
I actually didn't know Steam could reject games. I didn't know it was possible.
This could potentially lead to the DSi
I have literally bought a game on
completely
Steam that
useless as
didn't
a
have the
countermeasure.
executable
So
file
he
in it,
decided
meaning
to
I
release
bought
Bob's
something I
game
could
via
never play.
his own handheld video game console.
So I don't know how you get rejected.
This is the ND, the Indie Handheld Console. It's about the size of a micro, with a larger screen, more buttons, and a faster CPU.
According to Poloni, the ND would be made cheaply by a Chinese company called Dingu, and would be sold cheaply as well. $20, which included a copy of Bob's game, with an open invitation for all indie developers to port their games and keep 90% of the revenue. For Poloni, this would both be a way of getting back at Nintendo for rejecting him and satisfy his desire to release Bob's game on a physical medium. But as usual, things didn't go the way Poloni envisioned. As soon as I opened the site, the wiki got vandalized by trolls, he wrote, replacing the download page for the SDK with insults. Poloni couldn't secure the funding needed to scale the console, and despite even beginning to build a library of games submitted by other independent developers, the ND ultimately had a predictable conclusion. It fizzled out before ever seeing the light of day. And Poloni's last-ditch attempt to either join Nintendo or beat them at their own game came to an end.
Oh shit. Son of a bitch.
In the following
so then he created
years,
The
indie
Witcher.
gaming saw something of a boom, with several games developed by a single person or very small teams, releasing to critical and commercial success.
Well, games are a lot more accessible now. Creating games is a lot easier now. It's easier to make them and to sell them and to survive off them. So it's good to see indie games, which is kind of that corner of the market where you've got small teams making weird games that can still survive next to the AAA games. I think is a good thing.
Independent creators who Poloni had befriended at past developer conferences began releasing their games. Tim Rogers went on to see success with Ziggurat. Phil Fish, who Poloni had reportedly offended by stating his game looked like Cave Story, eventually released Fez, also to widespread acclaim.
That I don't remember what, but why was Fez so controversial again? Real quick, just give me the cliff notes because I remember Fez had big fucking controversy. Thanks for the gift sub, nerd. I can look it up, but I'm just gonna go to the chat first, just think maybe you can give me like a concise explanation. Phil Fish is an asshole, and that's about it. Oh. Oh shit, okay.
But over the next couple years, news of Bob's game was sparse to non-existent. Poloni would occasionally upload to his YouTube channel, but with the videos only a few seconds long and devoid of any content, they seemed to only serve as a reminder to the few who were still paying attention that he was still around. Those still checking in on his website were met with Poloni's, quote, ascension into the true prophet and savior of mankind. But whether he was still making progress on Bob's game was unclear. When Poloni began making Bob's game in 2003, he'd intended it for the Game Boy Advance. But with the release of the 3DS in 2011, a third Nintendo handheld console generation had passed him by, and Bob's game was further than ever from being released on it. It seemed Bob's game had been indefinitely postponed. But in April of 2014, a Kickstarter surfaced. The game had either returned or Poloni was setting up another viral campaign. Supporters approached with cautious optimism. The product description featured Poloni's trademark hyperbole. Bob's game is the most important thing to happen to mankind in hundreds, if not thousands of years. Bob's game is the vehicle for a prophecy written by a self-taught genius prophet. It carries within it a message that will revolutionize society and change the world. It is the beginning of a new era for mankind. Despite the theater, the game itself was looking good, and now boasted such features as character customization, cleaner-looking graphics, and improved mini-games with alleged multiplayer capabilities.
Whoa! Whoa! You telling me and my friends can play some Bob's game together?
Best of all, there was no mention of attempting to goad Nintendo into releasing it. Poloni's struggles had been incorporated into the game itself, with the plot centering around a young, aspiring developer attempting to break past Nintendo's gatekeeping in order to release his game. But it seemed Robert no longer felt the need to sabotage his own ambitions in order to make his life imitate his work. He announced the game would be released on other platforms in December of that year. Poloni wrote he was inspired to make the Kickstarter by his friend Alex Peake, who'd raised over $170,000 for his game Code Hero. But Robert's target was...
Did that game ever come out? Sorry, it's a Kickstarter. I'd like to know if it ever came out. Code Hero? All I can find is their Kickstarter. Did Code Hero ever release? The release date is to be announced. Oh wait, no. Hold on. Okay, I'm confused. In August 2013, beta version of the game became available to download on Primer Labs' website. Announcement date of April 22nd, 2014 indicated that version 0.5 was forthcoming. Primer Labs' website went down in 2014, and the company's Facebook and Twitters have been inactive since 2012. But then in 2015, they reopened with updates, but the next version of 0.5 was never released. And then it says after that, the game was updated in 2017. So did the game come out or what? Because on Wikipedia, it still says to be announced. Thanks to the tier 1 not Christian Baron and resub Your Dog Trash. Oh yeah, I'm not a fan of Miami at all. Dreadfully overpriced. Half of this shit just doesn't like work well. Took us 2 hours to leave the stadium because the way they set it up is you single file line onto a main street that Ubers will not pick you up on. So yeah, I just don't like Miami at all. At all. Let me go on their Kickstarter. Let's see what the comments say. Code Hero April update from April 3rd of 2014. Sorry to say that I'm leaving the project. This is from the creator. Oh, no, sorry. Project coordinator. Sorry, I'm leaving the project. So the game never came out. That is every single fucking Kickstarter. It is amazing to me that people still put money into Kickstarter games or Indiegogo campaigns. Amazing. Thanks to resub Shifty and Nainavi.
Was much smaller. At $10,000, he was asking his backers for the means to buy what he called a hack van, which would be a cargo van fitted with solar panels from which to live.
Yeah, I know Bob's game is on
Anything
Steam.
less,
I'm not gonna play
and
it.
he promised to give up on Bob's game forever. In order to fully explain some of the weird choices behind his campaign, Poloni released an autobiography on his website. It's nearly book-length and oddly confessional, with stories ranging from accidentally killing his pet kitten when he was younger to angrily quoting Head Like a Hole lyrics at his parents. He wrote that he'd been inspired by the Year Zero alternate reality game from 9 Inch Nails, a multimedia dystopian experience aimed at the Bush administration. Polony's live stream and 100-day protest were an attempt to create a similar campaign targeting Nintendo. I was going to become the 9 Inch Nails of video games, Polony wrote. It was going to be the coolest thing anyone had ever done in video games.
Is this Robert playing DDR? Because he's pretty good.
His connection to Nintendo seemed to run deep.
I was solid.
For every major event in his life, from dropping out of high school to his first girlfriend, Polony recalls what video game he was playing at the time.
Yeah,
almost
it's in the
always
chat,
a Nintendo
Boombox.
title. He wrote of spending summers repeatedly playing through Super Mario 64. It always felt strange and lonely when I finally got to the castle roof, he wrote, so I would start over again. Perhaps that's why, in the end, Polony wasn't able to bring himself to release Bob's game without them. He reached his $10,000 Kickstarter goal, but the December release date came and went, with Bob's game nowhere to be found. Backers grew worried, and eventually upset. And in the rare moments Polony provided an update, he did little to inspire confidence. As the months went by, news of Kickstarter refunds began to surface.
Imagine you just take $10,000 from people and all you can say is, I'm turning into God. Fuck. I cannot believe people still fucking give money to Kickstarters.
Little to inspire
Crazy.
Confidence. As the months went by, news of Kickstarter refunds began to surface. Bob's website featured a disclaimer stating that he intended to reimburse those who'd helped finance his game, and that he was currently looking for other work. Uploads to his website and YouTube channel stopped for more than a year, until the summer of 2016 when Bob's game appeared to be available for free on Steam and itch.
There it is!
But those who downloaded it didn't find the RPG they were expecting.
Oh.
What is it, just Tetris? You make
Mudahar again!
I thought you had a whole DS game, dude. What the fuck is this?
Instead, they found the game within a game that you, the game's protagonist, was said to have been developing throughout the Bob's game storyline.
What? You turned it into Dr. Mario now? I'm confused, Bob. You're scaring me. What is the game anymore?
Many who'd expected the game they'd been following for the past 8 years felt they'd been misled once again. And when Polony began to move on to other projects, such as this, quote, billion-dollar edu game that would replace K-12 education, it seemed Bob's game had truly come to an end.
That sounds like an Indiegogo campaign. I'm going to change the way we breathe using my new device that you wear around your wrist. Our goal is flexible at $4 million.
The saga of Bob's game, while unique in its own way, is not without its parallels. Stories of independent developers responding to the sudden rush of attention they've received.
This man didn't even finish K-12 education. True, he dropped out.
Phil Fish
which is why he's replacing it.
After the success of Fez, claiming YouTubers who played his game on their channel owed him advertising.
That's fucking right. I remember that now. Oh, I totally fucking forgot about that meltdown. Yeah. Classic. Classic Fish.
Revenue before quitting the industry out of spite because he believed his fans didn't deserve anything else from him. Once Alex Mahan became popular after well-known YouTubers streamed the demo for his anime-inspired stealth action title Yandere Simulator.
Oh, classic!
Oh, she woke up!
Thanks, resub Kariba from Prime Turkey.
His game fell into developmental purgatory, while Mahan's personal reputation was marred by outbursts and accusing fans of slowing progress by sending him too many emails.
When you send me a stupid email, you are actively sabotaging the game's development.
True. You ruined
Other
it.
independent video game
You
developers,
did,
however,
pussy.
seem to handle the pressure and expectations well.
We have Yandere Dev right, or
comparison
Sim right
against the
now.
ones who don't.
Not for your emails.
It's impossible to know how one will respond when something they've put into the world is positively received, and they find themselves, usually for the first time in their lives, in front of an audience. Polony has remained largely silent in recent years. He's been banned from updating his own Wikipedia page for failing to follow editing guidelines. He'll occasionally
I didn't even know you could be
appear in
banned from
forum discussions
Wikipedia.
whenever the subject of his game comes up, always quick to assure his fans that he's still working on Bob's
The
game,
Messiah.
but vague as to the
Nice.
specifics. Reggie Fils-Aimé stepped down as the president of Nintendo of America in 2019. His replacement is fittingly named Doug Bowser. Perhaps Polony would find him more
I'm pretty sure Doug
receptive
Bowser's
to a renewed
dead.
campaign to bring Bob's game
He hasn't
to
been seen
Nintendo
since
once
his
and for
announcement.
all. But if something like that is in the works, no one knows but Bob himself.
Bob's game at the Nintendo World Store.
We're going to purchase a DS and we're going to play it here.
You're gonna love it. I know you. You're gonna really get some That was great.
Well, yes, we've got a question from our listeners, and here
another great video from Atrocity Guide. I didn't know anything about Bob's game. I'd actually never even heard of it, which is crazy to me if it really was that big of a deal, because I was glued to the internet. Always have been. So for that to slip under my radar is shocking. Yeah, I've seen that. That was great. Yeah, I am going to check his website real quick, though, before we get off the Bob's Game train. Alright, let's see. What in the fuck is this? I don't think this is the right website. I definitely can't show this on stream. Is his website not Bob's Game? The first thing here just says this person and this person have 350 counts of contempt and multiple accounts of child sexual abuse, with direct recorded testimony from multiple children, child psychological abuse and brainwashing, threatening child to cover up kidnap. What is this? Is this the wrong website? It has to be. What the fuck is that? What was the website in the video?
Sabotaging behavior deserve vital. Something they've put into the Warriors game, but Vegas to the Bob's game, but and however purgatory out of spite because he believed his title game that expected the was
where did she show the website again?
He did little to heated disclaimer stating.
Oh my god, it is the same website. What the fuck is this? Wow, that's real fucking weird. Thanks to the resub Grass, Milkman, Reese's, and the Prime Joshua. Hey, well, appreciate it, Lootbox. No, it's the same site, man. It's just really disturbing. No, I'm not scrolling down. I went far enough on that site. I'm definitely not going back. Yeah, I'm just going to assume Bob lost that domain at some point and some crazy asshole took it over. I have a hard time believing... Not that I know Robert Poloni personally or like anything about him outside of this video, but I cannot imagine he did that. Thanks for the gift sub, low-key.